if you're not a big reader, use podcasts to help you. And there are some phenomenal podcasts out there. Olley does some fantastic ones, and he has asked some great questions. Trust me.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Designer Future podcast. I've got James on today. James, go ahead, man. Introduce yourself for me.
Olley, thank you for having me, man. I'm a property investor and developer. Started out with a deal sourcing business of finding deals for investors and selling those on. Systemized that now, and now we're sort of really focusing on new build projects and conversions of old properties. That's really, that's kind of really it, man. Like it's just property, but it's kind of everything you could expect within the residential sector.
Yeah, amazing. So obviously, like the main reason I wanted you to get on is, you got so many young people just getting into property or trying to get into property. And like you said, you started off with deal sourcing. So for anyone that doesn't know what that is, can you just sort of like dumb that down? Let's say, for example, someone's magically landed on this video, how to become a deal sourcer. How would you sort of describe what it is you're actually doing, and how would you sort of get into it if you've never heard of it before?
Sure. I mean, everybody knows you can make money in property, right? It's no secret. Everyone knows it. I guess the question has always been how. Like I knew this when I was growing up. Everyone knows you can make money in property. It's just how. And I think because everyone knows you can do it, there's a lot of people out there who have money who want to buy things for investment properties, whether they be second homes and rental units, but not they just want to build something crazy and make a load of money that way. Deal sourcing is finding these deals, which doesn't mean you have to buy them yourself. You don't have to go out and buy houses and sell them to anyone else or anything like that. You go out and find leads, you find deals, you do due diligence, you do your research, your market research, come back, you put all that together and go, right, if I were to put money into this, I think it would make me a good return. So you've got yourself a deal, you find someone who's got some money who then wants to invest in property, and you say, hey, what do you think of this deal? Do you like the look of it? It matches your strategy. And then you charge a fee for doing so. And this fee is usually somewhere around the £3,000 mark. They can get bigger, they can be smaller, but on average, it's something like 3 grand. So obviously, you can see then if you did that a couple of times a month, you can quickly make up a fairly decent sort of earning for yourself. And that, in essence, is deal sourcing. And there are various strategies within property that you can go into specifically if you want. But the art of deal sourcing is just finding a property that someone else wants to buy, a bit like an estate agent, really,
Mm.
finding a buyer and then helping them to buy that property and create a return on investment for themselves. It could just be a standard buy to let. It doesn't have to be super complicated. You don't have to be building houses. You can keep it really, really simple. And it doesn't even, truth be told, man, they don't have to be great deals. If you look at the market and what other people sell, like you could just find within reason any house that has a good rental yield. And people will pay you for that, man. People will pay you for that.
Amazing, amazing. So obviously, I'm guessing that's where you would say for people to start, right? Like the whole deal sourcing, because there's no sort of like upfront investment. Like you said, you haven't got to go and buy a house. You haven't got to have a deposit sitting there to get that sort of cash flow going. Is that where you'd say to start?
I think I probably would. I mean, if I went back and I was starting again now, I'll tell you, I'd just join venture with people. I'd still get my education, but then I'd join venture with people. The thing is, deal sourcing has taught me so many things about property and about business that I never would have learned otherwise. I paid a lot of money to learn how to do the individual strategies and that I was educated on how to invest in property. That being said, the best education I had was just physically doing it and running the business and starting to employ staff and worrying about marketing and then cash flows and then accounts and then obviously buying stuff and then the process of actually refurbing houses. And so, yeah, I think maybe the fastest way, my most preferred way if I went back would actually be just out and out joint venture with people if I had my knowledge. But in terms of an education, yes, I would definitely pay for some, but learning through the business and it gives you such a well-rounded sort of understanding of what it is that's going on. You don't get lied to in any sense because you've done it. And I think when you actually learn to deal source, it's a fantastic way of getting paid whilst you learn as well and whilst you come up with these deals. But it teaches you more about business as well, which is the kind of stuff that you wouldn't necessarily learn about otherwise. You'll learn how to calculate your NVIs and how to calculate refurbs and manage projects, but you wouldn't necessarily learn how to manage people. Or you wouldn't necessarily learn how to run a business from a marketing perspective or from a sales perspective, all this kind of additional stuff. And I think for me, the biggest benefit of deal sourcing was the education, the one it allowed me to learn the way through, and it allowed me to build up experience and credibility on deals that I didn't have to buy. As you said, I didn't have to buy these houses. So I got to say, well, I've set up 40 plus HMOs in my time, just I don't own any of them, but I still have all the experience of doing it. I still know all the steps in doing it. So if you are starting out on property, you don't know what to do, and you need to get educated before you can really decide what strategy it is you want to do and what ties up with you. But for me, deal sourcing is one of those things that will actually give you the education that you need as you go through, once you've got through those initial barriers, and you can get paid while you do it.
Amazing, amazing. So just to peel back the onion a little bit, so what was James doing a couple of years ago, or like 5 years ago, before you got into this whole sort of property game, and how did you learn? Like, because people will obviously, if they watch this and they think, okay, I'm going to get into deal sourcing, I highly doubt someone's just going to go pick up the phone to investors and be like, oh, I found this really good deal. So how would you advise to get educated on the subject?
Sure. Coincidentally, that was probably one of the best ways to get educated. Just pick the phone up. But
Yeah, for sure.
no, I started out. I came out of college and I decided I wasn't going to go to uni for many reasons. And I did the bit of getting the terrible retail jobs, learning that I hate myself, learning that I hate the 9 to 5, learning that I can't work for other people, all that kind of stuff. People have lived those lives, and for me, I hated that retail sort of shift work type thing. And I sort of batted around a couple of other little jobs for a couple of months, nothing really kind of set. And then I'd spent about 4 months not doing anything. Like, I wasn't working, I was just claiming my money, all the rest of it. I had a bit of cash, but it wasn't loads. And I learned the true meaning of boredom, man. I was so bored. Like, I thought it would be great just living my life and doing what I wanted every day, and not really paying attention and just getting up when I want. And
yeah, it's not as fun as it seems.
no, like, it was fun for like a couple of weeks, like, but then after that, you lose all your motivation, you lose, your purpose. And I think a lot of people wonder why a lot of us do what we do and work the hours that we do, and it's because we've been in a position like this and we know how much we hate it, and then we see the kick you get when you work like full on, and that's why we do it. And for me, in the middle of all of that, my dad came home one day and said, hey, do you want to go to a networking event? And I was like, I guess I might as well go. Like, what's the worst that could happen? Nothing's happening here. And I went down. There's a guy called Samuel Leeds, and he was talking about property. And he spent half an hour talking about how you can buy a property with no money, like using none of your own cash, and obviously benefit them from the cash flow. And then he was also talking about the main principles of investing in property, on why it's a good idea, the whole, money shrinks in the bank, all that kind of stuff. And so some of this I already knew, but it never really sunk in as like a possibility of something that I might actually be able to do as a profession. I thought, hey, that might be cool. And he gave me his book. And I took the book home and I looked at it and I thought, oh yes, massive writing. I wasn't a big reader. I didn't like books. And when I opened it and saw it was short and had big writing, I was so pleased. And I put that book down and thought, yes, I'm going to read that. And then 6 months passed and I still hadn't picked the book up. And one day, I don't know, one day it caught my eye and I thought, yeah, you know what? Okay, let's just give that a quick read. Let's see what that's all about. And by the time I'd finished the book, mate, I was like, yeah, we can do this property thing. If this is true, like, I'm doing this. I am straight up doing this. And at the back of the book is like, okay, come down to a crash course. It's like a 2 days of free training, getting yourself through the door. Went down to that. And from then on, I paid for some of his advanced training. And whilst I was coming up to getting into property, just as I started reading that book, I picked up a job as an electrician. So I was working officially as an electrician when I moved into property. I never had any intention of keeping that going. That was simply to pay me whilst I was learning about property. Yeah, I needed a second income source, right?
So I think that's something. I think that's something that people don't consider. Like you said, you was pretty sitting at home bored, but you went out and got this job to fund this other venture. So yeah. I think that's so important, because everyone's like the Gary V culture of like, you need to put everything into it. You need to quit your job. You need to put everything into it. But then you do get bored. You get lonely. And I think it goes back to you saying the joint ventures as well. Like, that's got to help with motivation as well, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think to some extent there is no right or wrong way. Like, should you quit your job? Should you not quit your job? I mean, it's so personal. And it depends on the situation that you're in. I had no kids. I had no girlfriend, let alone a wife. You know, I was only supporting myself. I didn't have to pay for anything else. My monthly expenses were like £400 a month. Like I wasn't in a position where, you know, there was huge downside. Now I wasn't in that position, and I needed money anyway because I wanted to go to the pub on like a Friday night with my mates, and I wanted to do this and that. You know, I still had stuff I wanted to spend money on, right? We always do. And I hadn't made good money before, so it's not like I'd ever saved up a huge pot. So I had to get something together, and obviously the training cost me money. So to date, I spent about £25,000 on training. Back then, it was paid 16, 17 all in. It was my initial sort of chunk. And as I was going through the training, I knew that I needed obviously to keep my job going. But it got until September. So November was January was my crash course, and I got to September at this point, and I had a client who wanted to buy some houses. He wanted to buy a couple of HMOs. I'd sat down with him. I'd done my sort of like proposal and all that kind of thing. And I went out, I found these houses, and I put them in front of him. And when he was like, "Yeah, I think we're going to take these on, and yeah, I want to work with you," I just quit my job there and then overnight. Like I was like, "Bun that, mate. I'm gone. I need my time back." Like, and I was working as a Sparky from Monday till Thursday, but then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was working in events, doing outdoor events, kind of laboring, doing sound technician, you know, audio, visual, you name it, kind of everything that was going on there. So I'd lost all of my time, and I got used to working, you know, many hours a week. And then when it came to start of September, and I could see that I was going to be able to make this work, and I had a client who I knew would pay, or at least I believed would pay, I just quit my job, man. I was like, I need my freedom back so I can go view in the middle of a day on a Tuesday or on a Wednesday. I need to be able to do what I need to do in this space. I don't want to be at work, like trying to go to the toilet to scroll through Rightmove and get bookings booked in. Like, it doesn't work. So I needed my flexibility back, and I cut down everything. I was cutting down all my extracurricular stuff, like my regular Tuesday and Monday meetings, all that kind of stuff. I was cutting everything out, so it was just me and property, and I could truly focus on it. And yeah, that was September 2018. Sold my first two deals in September 2018. Got paid £3,000, and honestly, when that payment hit, they talk about the penny drop thing, but it was more than that. It was this deep realization. I was like, holy cow, I can do it again. And it's like I'd seen how long it took. And I was like, exactly, like that business mind came, and I was just like, okay, I can see how I can repeat this and repeat this and repeat this and repeat this and do this multiple times a week. And suddenly it goes from like a £3,000 one-time payment that seems like a miracle to, okay, I understand how I can make 20, 30, 40, 50,000 a month. It's like, it's a completely different kind of way of thinking, but it doesn't happen until you've been paid once, and then it sinks in. I had absolute faith that property was legit until I did that. But when you got paid, then it's like, oh, wow, okay, it really is. You are there, you're in the middle of it. And then I kind of just scaled from there, man. So that was September 2018. We're now in February 2021. I've got 5 full-time members of staff. You know, we work with investors in 29 different countries. I've bought portfolios. We've done HMOs, buy and refinance, flips, lease options, rent to rents. You know, we're converting pubs now. We're building houses from the ground up. And it kind of just spiraled from then on, constantly investing in my education, looking to systemize, looking to grow, focusing on marketing and sales, and continue to build a business as you might expect, but very much sort of learning on the job as we go.
Amazing. James, what's one thing that you've done, whether it's in property or just random life, one thing you've done that you're certain none of my previous guests have done?
I'm pretty sure none of your previous guests, after 7 or 8 months in the industry, sold 71 grand's worth of deals in a week.
Amazing. Nice. Yeah. And you speak about your education and stuff like that. There's a lot of people that are sort of like not, I wouldn't say against, but it just doesn't seem normal for them to, like, I remember saying to one of my friends, like back when I was like 18, that I'd spent £1,000 on an online course, and they were like, what's wrong with you? So how did you sort of pull the trigger, in a sense of that? Like, if you was an electrician, you was making obviously X amount, and then you're probably spending like the month's salary on an online course, or it was, like you said, it was a networking event. How did you sort of flip your mindset with that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was kind of, there were two big things that made the decision for me. Number one was No, I'd say there's three big things. The first one was, where do I want to be in 10 years' time?
Mm.
Because if I say no to this, I'm fairly certain I know where I'm going to be. If I say yes, I don't know. It's a 50-50 chance in my head. But if I say no, I know where I'm going to be, and it's not where I want to be. The second one was, I never went to university, man. And all of my mates did. And all of them have got 40, 50,
Paying off this
£60,000 debt.
I know, and they think that's so normal. Whereas like to pay £1,000 for
Yeah.
what you get, and you're
You're
spending
still
your time.
buying education. Like,
Exactly.
you're still buying educate. What's the difference? Mine doesn't have a qualification. So the qualification is you make money.
And
Like,
you know what the biggest difference is as well for the people watching and listening, like with like university, like I get it. If you're going, obviously you can't really go to university to study to become a property investor. Main reason being that none of the teachers are property investors. And it's
yeah,
the same like how I always look at school is like the only thing you're really going to learn from your teachers at school is how to become a teacher because that's what they've done. Like, so yeah, I think the whole like thing around online courses, and I know Samuel Leeds gets a lot of like stick from other people, and
yeah,
he's got like this sort of um like split persona of like whether he's good or bad. But I know it's obviously people like yourself that actually invested into his education,
yeah.
taken the steps that he says, and not just bought it and then thought it was some like get rich quick scheme. But he bought the knowledge and then done nothing with it, and then is saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is a scam. This is a scam." So
What happens when you go to university and you pay them £9,000 and don't attend any lectures and don't submit any of your dissertation or your homework? Like, do you expect to pass? No.
mm,
So what's the difference with this? And I think there are more similarities between university and this than you might think. I'm not after a piece of paper that says I have a degree from X doing Y. Like,
mm,
that's not what I wanted. And the whole point of me for going to uni was it was just another middle gap to getting where I wanted to be. Back then I was thinking about going to hedge funds or private equity, basically finance. Like, that's where I thought I was going to go. I didn't need a degree to do that, but I thought, okay, if I get one, then I can do this, right? It was all about and then.
yeah,
So with this whole training is still about and then. It's about you do the training, you then implement it, and then you become successful in your own right. You build a business, you make money, you can have a life of freedom, whatever it is that you want to sort of attach to that. But it's the same kind of thing. If you don't do any work at uni, you don't pass. If you don't do any work on this, you know what? You don't succeed. But a university going to refund your fees if you drop out? No. Does anyone kick up a fuss when they do? No. Like, it's just paying for education. It's something that we've all done for years. In a lot of countries, you have to pay for your own education up until the age of 18. You might get primary school for free. In some places, you don't even get primary school for free. Like, we are blessed here in the UK that we get up 18 years of education for free. And by and large, I think it's all right. But, paying for specific education in a sector that is going to be taught by people who are doing what they're doing, as you say, property investors, you're not going to find them at university or schools. All this kind of stuff. It's like, this is normal. It's not this weird thing that people think it is. It's very normal. It made a lot of sense to me. And that was like I said, that was the second reason why I was like, you know what, this makes sense. The third one was, I was like, it's £2,500. My first payment, I was like, it's £2,500. I thought, what's the
mm.
worst that could happen? Like, if
Yeah,
it's a
like,
scam, I'll
like you said, you can always go get one of these other jobs to make that money back at the end of the day. Like money comes and goes if you're
yeah.
going to invest it in certain things. James, if you had to delete all but 3 apps from your phone, what 3 apps would you keep?
I would assume my phone will still make phone calls out even without like an app. Because for me, phone calls are by far and away the most important things. I think a mail client of some sort, email, I do a lot of work on email. I use WhatsApp a hell of a lot. Like, pretty much all my business is running exclusively through WhatsApp. And then, I can make a good case for a lot of apps, but I think probably it's either going to be Audible, for the
Okay.
books, or it's going to be a social media platform,
Mm.
but ultimately I've still got to have a camera. So for me, I think, yeah, I'd probably go with a social media platform, an email client, and WhatsApp. It's all about communication, right?
Mm.
Property's a people business. It's about how I would communicate with people. A lot of the other stuff you can learn to do in your head, but by and large, man, I don't use my phone I use my phone a lot, but for the same things again and again and again. It's social media, it's messaging of some sort, it's on the phone of some sort. There aren't sort of these crazy apps where I go on and take a photo of a house, it tells me how much money it's going to make. Like, that would be sick, but we don't have one of those. So it is still kind of, the property industry is a little bit old school in that sense, where it is all about communicating with people rather than just necessarily getting some information from online.
Sure. So, with that being said, property being old school, obviously over the last 5 years, we've probably seen the difference in it being old school, as in 5 years ago, you might have had to go and physically meet these investors, physically
Yeah.
go knock on their doors, write them a letter, all of this. How are you now using social media? Because I know obviously we're getting to the creating content side of things, but when push comes to shove, how are you using social media to, one, find deals and also connect with investors?
Sure. A lot of people, when they get into deal sourcing, don't have investors. This is the common thing. People learn how to find a deal, then haven't learned how to find investors now to close them. What they will do most commonly is they will look to team up with someone who is a compliant deal sourcer, someone like myself, to co-source. So
Mhm.
from a social media perspective, if I'm talking about investing in property, about deal sourcing, about selling deals onto investors, case studies, all this kind of stuff, all the stuff you see on my content channels, like, they're going to message me saying, hey, I've got a deal, can you sell it for me and we'll split the fee. Like, this happens all the time, literally. Even this morning, like on a daily basis, people are saying, hey, I've got deals, can you help me sell them? And I'm 100% down for this, because they're bringing me deals. As you say, this is what social media is for. On the investor front, there's a few things. Obviously, paid ads and promotions are a big thing. Case studies, being able to put out deals that we're actually working on at the moment. We've completed another house. This is one that we finished refurbing. Here's one that's tenanted. As a business, if you can say, you're doing something, and then you can show it as well,
Mm.
like, that means something. And a lot, obviously, with the property industry, and you mentioned it already, there's those who don't quite believe all of it is true, because it is pretty awesome. Naturally, there's going to be doubters. If I'm saying, we've got 30, 40, 50 active projects on at any given time, I should be able to show you 20 or 30 different projects that are on the go at any given time. Like, there are obviously sometimes it's not really possible. By and large, you should be seeing us in houses. You should be seeing refurbs going on. Like, it's just backing up and giving you that credibility, the stuff you're talking about. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. But then just, there are four big pillars of business in over the next 100 years that are going to kind of take off. Social media is one of them. You've obviously got e-commerce, and you've got real estate, and you've got basically capital management, so hedge funds and stuff like that. There are four big pillars of business, and e-commerce isn't something I can use that readily within the property industry. Real estate is property. Social media, you've got to be an idiot not to be using it. I'll be the first person to tell you that my heart is not in social media. I don't really go scrolling through social media for my own enjoyment. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't happen. I'm not that interested in it. I comment, I like comments, I read stuff, I do engage, but it's not where my heart is at. Like, if I'm going to go enjoy myself, I won't have my phone with me. This is the thing. But I can't, in good conscience, leave such a valuable resource just sat on the side burner. I'm running a business, for crying out loud. Like, I'm leaving tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds on the table if I don't use social media. So for me, it's not even a question about why or how or should you. It's just, yes, you should, and you
Mm.
need to be doing it. And it just picks up these connections with people you never even expected to meet. It's more than just investors and deal sources. Sometimes you're meeting architects and surveyors and building contracts, people staging your houses for you, people doing CGIs for your off-plan marketing. They're messaging you for stuff that you didn't even know you needed. And this is beautiful. This is the power of sales. And I love it. You're constantly getting new ideas, new people into your network. They say your network is your net worth. Build it then. And social media in the middle of a lockdown is by far and away the perfect way of doing it. And you can automate it, man. Like, come on. From a business perspective, you can systemize it. Now, that isn't all.
Totally. And so, with that being said, like, how do you go about creating content? Because, like, to put how you've just said, just showing your journey, it's just when it comes to property, it's just about like documenting it, really. Because, like you said, for you to show other investors that you're working on these projects. People love to overcomplicate it, but even just getting your picture out, doing a little video of you in the property shows that proof of concept, right?
Yeah, and I think don't create, document. Don't try and think, oh, what am I going to do a video on this week? It doesn't work that way. Like
Mm.
every now and again, I'll do a video for that reason because there might be some point I'm trying to get across or something I've come across that week. But if I've come across it that week, it's still documenting. The whole point is don't try and shoot something that you're not already doing. Then it becomes another job. If you're already doing stuff, just get someone with a camera, get a fly on the wall. You know, that's all it is. And most of the content is when I'm going to a house to either start specking up a refurb and taking a build around, getting him through, talking through the schedule of works, you know, or we're halfway through the refurb, I'm checking in on it, or it's at the end and I'm snagging it off and making sure they've done everything they need to. Like, I'm just doing what I have to do there under my contractual obligations with the client, you know. And then I just bring Matt along, my videographer, and he's there with the camera. Like that's how most of that comes together. Or we'll be meeting on site on the first day of a development, or you know, we might be going down to a development project that we haven't yet bought, and we're doing an appraisal of some sort. The point is, we're doing what we do to find deals, to sell them, or to joint venture, or to invest in ourselves, and then obviously make profit and do business. We're just doing all of that, and I have Matt come along with a video camera. That's it. And he just films it all and then slices bits out, and then you've got your little micro content. And you'd be surprised what happens when you just do that, when you just film what is going on. And of course, it's already raw, it's already natural, it's got a really nice vibe to it because it's not something that you've staged for camera. It's just something you're documenting. It's the vlogging style rather than, I guess, the documentary style. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, and I think I've obviously come across your Instagram, and you can tell that as well, that it's just sort of like what you're doing on a day to day, and you're just hitting record. And I think that's what you talk about. You can automate it in systems. Like the amazing thing about content is it's like literally duplicating yourself, and it's like yourself is working for you 24/7, 7 days a week. Like, and when you same again, like when you said about you get that first payment of something comes in and you think, oh, this sort of proves it. It's exactly the same when someone comes through as a lead through one of your social media platforms at 4 o'clock in the morning. You wake up and you're like, oh, this person booked in a call with me 4 o'clock.
I know what you mean.
And it's the same thing. And you're like, why do I not, like, I need to double down on creating this content, because you never know. I've had videos that like skyrocket 3 years after I've made them. So the power of social media is just insane. Obviously, the documenting side of things. So you said you got a videographer that sort of comes with you. So do you just sort of like outsource that in a sense? You let him sort of crack on with that, or do you have? I know obviously you said you just document, but do you have like a strategy when it comes to the documenting, or is it literally we're going to see this property, come along, hit record?
There is an element of strategy, and I think it depends as well what's going on. We've released a couple of promo videos recently about a development project that we're undertaking. That one has got a full-on marketing plan behind it. There's visionaries, there's people chatting away and do this, that, and the other. And it's no secret. If you go and look at the branding, we are AWT. There's 3 of us that run it. We have 3 distinct areas of expertise and roles and responsibilities within the business.
Nice.
Anthony's an out-and-out visionary. This guy has got crazy ideas, and they're awesome. Like, honestly, they're fantastic. Some of them are mad, but you need some of that in your team, I'm telling you. And he's kind of got this vision for this stuff, specifically around some of these development projects. So certain projects, yes, but then it will cost us significantly more doing this kind of thing because we get professionals in for certain types of bits and bobs. And I won't speak too much because he'll bite my head off. But but at the same time, for the kind of more regular stuff, that is more like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're simply kind of repeating it. But the people I work with, I want them to do the job better than I would do it if I was in their position. And Matt was way ahead of me when it came to it anyway. He was already a videographer. He had experience editing, making YouTube videos, so on and so forth. So he kind of knew how to do all this anyway. But it's something that I have within my team is that, look, if you've got a suggestion how to do your job, or you want recommendations, or you want to get more training to make yourself better, like, I'm all for my people getting better and more competent within their roles, and indeed expanding within the business, because it helps the business, which indeed then helps me. So I leave him with a level of flexibility and creativity, and I want him to come up with ideas about what we do. You know, when I say we film, obviously he'll slice out a 60-second bit of micro content. You know, he does that, but they're not the same every single time. And to some extent, you don't know obviously what micro you're going to get. Some of it's obviously very straightforward. If you're talking about a new type of render, or you're talking about a specific type of planning, like then obviously it gives you a natural. But sometimes you might just be joking around and having a laugh with someone and building rapport. The whole conversation itself is almost pointless. You're just having fun. You're with your mates on site, having a laugh. Like this happens. But sometimes that makes some of the best content, you know? So it's about seeing what you've got and then being able to use it. And then I would say the same way in terms of selling deals and not exactly know what people are going to buy. You just got to put content out there and see what people like. You know, as you said, you had a video that went viral 3 years after you put it out. When you put it out, you probably thought it was an all right video. Maybe you thought it'd go viral, maybe you didn't. But when it did in 3 years' time, you weren't expecting it because you didn't know. And there's always going to be this element of you don't know what the public is going to take and take on. Like you don't know what is going to do well with people. You know, sometimes I'll put like just like a little graphic out with text on it. It does really, really well. And then sometimes we put a video out and it does really, really well. You know, and sometimes they don't. Like it is what it is. Like there's not a formula for what it is people are going to like. There's rough ideas, there's pointers, there's guidance, there's algorithms, there's this, there's that. But you're never going to truly know. And I would say just document what you're doing in your life and people will find it interesting. And sometimes just because they're not liking or commenting or even necessarily engaging, it doesn't come up in your stats, doesn't mean that people don't like it or people don't want to see it. You know, and it all forms part of your brand. And it's that kind of consistency to keep doing it regardless of what's going on that's going to make the difference. And for me, the social media side, as I said, isn't necessarily about I want to get famous, I want any sort of reward from it in that sense. It's more about it's a business tool that allows me to reach more people, that allows people to understand who we are, and then they start talking about you, even if it's only a one-off random conversation. But this is super powerful. When I moved in here where I live now, I'd never met my neighbors before, but they knew who I was before I moved in because of YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, it's powerful. You just don't realize it. As you say, you get a lead at 4 o'clock in the morning. And this is why I say I cannot drop it. I have no love for it, but it is so powerful.
Yeah.
You can't just walk away from it and assume that your life is going to be where it needs to be in a business sense. This is if you don't have social media. Like you've got to be using it. You've just got to be using it. And especially if any of your clients are the age of 25, man, I don't know where else you expect to find them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean. Like everyone's on their phone now. Everyone. So even the older generation, probably the investors that have got all the money, especially if they're investors that ain't really doing much else with their time, they're probably sitting watching your type of videos anyway, because that's what they're interested in. That's what they're passionate about.
Well, this is the thing. A lot of my investors do that, and a lot of this is what's crazy now. More and more people
watching your videos.
Yeah, but I love it because it's a way of me educating the people I'm going to be selling to, right? So it's just another way of me communicating with them and being able to help get my point and my brand over to them. Like it's more than that. But I love it because I'm getting investors coming to me now wanting me to help educate them and train them on investing. I'm like, that's powerful.
And it's also like for the people watching and listening, like you can go see a different perspective of property, because I've interviewed a couple of real estate agents in America, but it's the same with them. Like they'll say that they'll get leads come in that wants to buy a house or sell their house through their YouTube channel, and they get emails saying, look, I've just binge watched every single one of your videos. And at that point, it's like they're not going to then go find someone else to help them sell their house, or they're not going to go find someone else to buy their house with, because they've basically just become like one of your best mates in their sense, in their eyes. And that's why it's so powerful, because you can get to know people and build rapport, just like James said, on autopilot, because once you put that content out there, you never know who's going to stumble across it and then fall into your funnel in a sense. James, just to finish up, let's say, for example, someone is going to take your advice and they're going to go into the deal sourcing to start building some cash flow now, right? Like you said, one of the hardest things when you start is going to be finding investors. If you could sort of break it down, really dumb it down for someone, what would the next 2 to 3 weeks look like in terms of finding packaging deals and then obviously finding investors to take those deals off their hands? What would that sort of look like?
Sure. So assuming you kind of know what you're doing, then you can begin to get moving in a kind of 2-3 week period. But otherwise, everyone learns at different rates, so don't expect to learn everything within 2 weeks. And it took me best part of 6 months before I sold a deal. And admittedly, a lot of people have sold deals faster than that, but it took me the best part of 6 months. I've been doing this for 3 years now. Like you do learn things as you go through it. In terms of finding deals and the rest of that, that's kind of standard basic education about, how will stuff rent out, how to value a house, how much is it going to rent out for, the good areas, the bad areas. And it's no secret that by far and away the best way of doing this is to pick the phone up and ring people who live in the local area. Like, done. Just get on the phone. And you said at the start, pick the phone up. I love that. At every single stage of your journey, if there's one thing that's going to change your progress, and I learned this, pick the phone up. Stop going online for information. Just pick the phone up and ring someone. Honestly, and I mean every single stage, no matter what you're doing, whether you're finding investors, looking to market yourself, looking to get new deals in, build rapport with agents, do due diligence, doesn't matter. Pick the phone up and you'll move at 10 times the speed that you would if you're trying to do stuff online. Like, just honestly, pick the phone up. It's crazy what happens. And the investor side of it, which is where a lot of people get stuck, it's a networking thing, which means it's not an overnight, you get 1,000 people kind of thing. It's an everyday, consistent action that you constantly take to build your network. That's what I'm doing right now when I'm speaking with you, Olley. Like, this is the whole point of this, is it's building the network. You've got to reach people. And social media, I would say, use social media. So I'm talking about messaging people. I'm talking about commenting. I'm talking about generally engaging within the community, adding genuine value to people, and of course, posting yourself and creating your own content. Highly recommend doing that. I'm not a social media expert. Like, if you want more info on that, then go and learn about social media. The beauty of YouTube now, right, is you can learn anything you want to learn. Then in terms of like physically speaking to people, I would say understand how to sell to people, both the sales pitch side and indeed the closing side, about handling objections, how you overcome those. If there is one skill that will benefit you for the rest of your life, it's learning to sell. It doesn't matter if you're in property, whether you're a parent, a teacher, a vet, it doesn't matter. Sales will improve the job that you're in, ultimately. Sales is as simple as, hey, you want to go out for a meal tonight with your partner, but you can't decide where to eat. Sales is coming to a conclusion, a resolution between the two of you, like that works for both sides. That is sales. It's not just obviously selling a deal, getting paid for it. And most people don't know how to sell, and I had no idea how to sell before I got into this, and none at all. And there's so much useful content out there. Again, go on YouTube, Google how to sell. You'll find some content out there that will really get you going.
Yeah.
So that, I would say, consistent action on the networking side to build up your network. And then learning how to sell will allow you to convert those leads into people that will physically buy from you.
Yeah, no, and you hit the nail on the head when people say, and they have like that perception of their self that they can't sell. Mm-hmm. Because if they, say for example, yourself a couple of years ago when you was an electrician, you're a labourer, you're just sort of doing what you're told to do, right? So you wouldn't deem yourself as a salesperson, but when push comes to shove, you sold yourself to the boss to hire you. Yeah. And that's what I always say to people, is like, if you've got a 9 to 5, like, even if it's not in sales, like, you sold yourself in the interview to get hired for that job. You're a salesman. You're a saleswoman, should we say?
Yeah, I can give you examples of people close to me in my personal life where I've sat down with them, had brief conversations about sales and closing and what it's like being an employer versus an employee. And kind of stuff that you could say within your one-to-one meetings with your managers that may potentially help you get a promotion, or at least help make the relationship better so you're more likely to get one. And I know someone who ended up bringing in around £300,000 worth of business for their company in about a 2-month period, just because they started speaking a different way to the clients they were already working with. And they loved the project they delivered. They loved, obviously, their ability within that sector. And then after they brought all that business in, and they were chatting with their boss, and they kind of said, well, look, I brought in £300,000 worth of business you didn't have before in lockdown, no doubt. Come on. Like, I think that I deserve something better and all the rest of it. And he was like, yeah, 100%. This is why we're having this meeting. And they were taken aback because they didn't actually realize that they got into the meeting, they were going to get promoted anyway. And they obviously brought all this in through obviously what they'd learned to sell. And I don't take credit for any of this. Like, I have no idea how to do their job. They still did it.
Sure.
And they got a promotion because of it and made an extra £4,000 per annum in the middle of lockdown.
But do you think as well, like that sort of, when people talk about stuff like that, I think it all comes down to like knowing what you want as well. Like obviously you got into property and you said you sort of knew it was going to work. You know, otherwise you could have started doing property and then you could have like got into the e-commerce thing and you could have got into all of these other business models, but you knew what you want, just like your mate knew that, you know, he had proven he provided a lot more value than he was getting recognized for financially. He knew he wanted to get promoted.
Yes.
He knew exactly how to take those steps. And I think that's the main thing with people, whether it's making money online, it's making money in property, like they're not clear on the outcome they want to achieve. Hence why they sort of zigzag around all of these different shiny objects and whatnot.
I would agree with you, and it comes back to the confidence side of it. You know, if you truly had confidence in something, you'd never give up. Why would you? If you are 100% convicted of something, you'd never give up, ever. So there'd never be a reason to change your course. When people only start zigzagging when they've got a bit of doubt about, as you say, about what it is they want to do, and the precursor to being able to sell is that you are confident in what it is that you are selling, which is fantastic when you're selling yourself. Because no one knows you better than you. Yes, you know your weaknesses better than anyone else, but you know your strengths better than anyone else as well. You know, and we live in a world where identity is particularly difficult, a topic and something that a lot of, especially young people, struggle with for various reasons. Learning to sell truly and understanding the product and service in which you're going to sell is going to help you with that, especially when that is you, because you have to start by understanding that you are worth something, that you are powerful, that you are capable, and that you deserve what it is that you're going to be asking for. That is the premise of selling. I can't genuinely stand in front of someone on the phone and be like, you know what? I deserve for you to pay me £4,000 for this deal because it's damn good. It's going to make you a lot of money in XYZ. Like, I can't do that if I don't believe it.
Exactly.
But I do believe it because I know it's true, you know, because I have gone out and found a deal. I've put this together. I found something that genuinely works. I've got all the evidence here. You know, this is a good deal. Someone should buy it and they will make money out of it. And then they do, you know, like that for me, like, I do deserve to get paid for. Actually, I've done something of value. I've done something of worth there. And if someone is agreeing to give you money, that is them not paying you. It's them going, that acknowledging your value and saying, yes, you know what, you are worth what I'm paying you. I agree with that. You know, take it as a thank you. People paying you, they're thanking you. That's kind of how it is. And I think you've got to understand that in business, if you don't know what you want, you're never going to get it. If you never ask for it, you're never going to get it. But you've also got to believe that you deserve it. And you genuinely do. Like, there is good in every human on this planet. Like, everyone deserves to get paid. You just got to tell yourself that and believe it and then go and get it. You know, this is the beauty of the world that we live in. We live in a capitalist world where opportunity is there for everybody if you want to go take it. And when I was at school, a lot of people used to say to me, oh, you know, you'll always be successful. You'll do this, you'll do that, you'll do the other, you know. And maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. It doesn't really matter. But my mindset then was of a state where what I wanted was just going to land in my lap. Life was just going to give me what I wanted. And when I came out and I got bored and I had that kind of few years of doing nothing and amounting to nothing and being quite unhappy, it was because I was expecting life to land something in my lap, when in reality it was just putting it the other side of the room. I still just had to get up, walk across the room, pick it up, and away we went. And for me, that was what it was. You know, there's a networking event. Do you want to come tonight? It wasn't a particularly difficult step to do.
Yeah,
it changed everything for me. You know, life is constantly trying to give us opportunities. It's just, do we actually want to take them? Do we want to take them on board and go with them? And I highly advise that we do, honestly. That there is so much out there that you can do, not just in property. Through social media, you can become financially free. You know, like crypto, finance, e-commerce, you know, online courses. There's so much these days that you can do and you can learn about from home.
Before we finish up, we might as well have a little conversation about crypto as well. So you're obviously making money from property. Are you dipping your toes into like crypto? I know, obviously, I think I see you made an online course, right?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely talk about that as well, because obviously a lot of my following isn't particularly in property. It's just an interest of myself. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, talk little bit about the online course and a little bit about crypto as well. That'd be cool.
Let's start with crypto then. I was 17. I had £200 in my account, £250 in my account. And crypto finished that day at Bitcoin finished that day at $94 a coin. Right. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Really,
And
yeah.
I was so close to loading my £200 in and buying 2 Bitcoin, man. And I didn't, was the long and short of it. And yes, of course, I wish I did. This was back when Coinbase looked terrible. It was in the early stages. I kind of learned my lesson from that, and I learned it from the waiting 6 months with the book thing. You
Yeah,
know,
it's not taking action. It's just it's mental, isn't it?
opportunity passing you by, man. And I don't eat myself up for it. Ultimately, the way I see it is I lost 50K because I didn't buy into crypto. But that's theoretically what I would have made on best case. So I was like, you know what, okay, I lost it. But for me, it's just don't wait again. Just next time you see an opportunity, just go for it. And back in April when lockdown hit, I was like, right, I've got a few minutes to think here. Let's go and do something. So I just literally just put £1,000 in crypto and was like, cool, we'll leave it at that. It's sad. Like it was $1,200, and a couple of days ago, now it was over $10,000. It's coming on like 9, 6, 10,000, something like that. It's about 900% return in 9 months. It's pretty healthy. I also have a good friend of mine who is a trader. He's been trading for a number of years, like sort of 3, 4 years, does very well, manages currency for investors, that kind of thing. And I did a fixed return kind of agreement with him the same way I do with property, where I borrow money from property, people then put in property, I make money, pay them back kind of thing. I did the same thing with him. So I lent him 15 grand fixed return for a year, and I get 35 back after 12 months kind of thing. And yeah, that's going really, really well. I know he's made a hell of a lot of money on it already. He's already made the profit he would need to give me. He's happy. I'm happy. There's basically no risk to me. We structured it with contracts, all the rest of it, and away we go. So crypto is something that I've been investing in on the side, and it's something that I could do myself if I wanted to. I could learn more about it. But for me, my focus is in property. The only reason I'm investing in crypto is simply to diversify my assets. I'm not using it for cash flow. I'm not trying to have a job out of it. That's not my goal. Do I think long-term crypto is going to be successful? Yeah, I do. Realistically, I think long-term it will be. Do I think that ultimately the currencies, the fiat currency is ruined because it's not backed by gold anymore? Yeah, probably I'd say yeah. Is Bitcoin going to be the one that takes it over? I can't really see it being any of the others just because of the head start it's got in the industry. I could be wrong though, and I'm far from a crypto expert, but that would be my basic understanding of what's going to happen. But more than that, I was once reading a book and watching some stuff about generational wealth, and there was a family in Italy that had been billionaires for over 20 generations since like 1200s. They were like, how have you maintained your wealth? Because most companies build, grow, boom over 3 generations. So how have they done it? They said, well, it's easy. A third in art, a third in gold, and a third in property. You can take all 3 of them with you. The title deeds for a house you can take with you, come back in 200 years' time and still lay claim to the land. Gold, you just put in a bag, art, right, roll it up, stick in the tube, and away you go. That was kind of their understanding. I think crypto will slink into that to an extent because you've got that cold storage, you've got that true offline storage, the same way you do with cold hard cash or gold. So I think crypto will see use. I think the biggest problem with it is going to be the network in terms of the amount of transactions. Making it a daily currency, just from a technological feat perspective, is difficult and hugely expensive. Not to mention the drain on the network in general. You know, it's quite a lot. Having that much security naturally means you're going to need more processing power. So it's also not quite as green. But long term, I think we'll solve those problems. I think that's just a case of waiting for enough of the public to pick it up. It will happen, just not super quick. In terms of online course, though, that's nothing to do with crypto. That's all to do with property. A guy called Johan came to me and was like, James, I've learned about deal sourcing. I'm doing everything that I need to be doing, but for some reason, I just can't sell a deal. And I was like, okay, cool, man. Like, what's your question kind of thing? And he was like, no, I want you to mentor me. And I was like, mate, I don't know if I'm up for that one-to-one mentoring stuff. There's a lot of time involved there. Obviously have to charge on the rest of it. And he's like, mate, I need you to mentor me. I wouldn't say begged. I would say he sold me into it.
And sorry, just to jump in before you carry on, why? Because of the content you was putting out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Literally, yeah. Actually, yeah. It was exactly that. He'd seen the videos. He'd seen what I was doing. All the rest of it was like, you know what? Yeah, I want you to mentor me, 100% because of the content I was putting out. And after 2 months, I gave in and said, fine. And I wrote this course and I was mentoring people last year. And Johan was the start of that. And he's killing it now. He's making well over 5 figures a month. So he's got staff as well, which is pretty cool. So I went into the one-to-one mentoring style, and I'd done a bit of tutoring in my past, but I never really got the sense of satisfaction from it, because unlike with tutoring, you teach them, they do the exam, you never see them again. You never know how they do. Like, it sucks. You spend all that time investing in people, you never actually know how they get on. Whilst with this, I was able to work with people. I was able to help them, teach them, mentor them, coach them, keep them accountable, encourage them, help them when they're having a bit of a crap day or a crap week, all this kind of stuff. And then they see them get paid, and to see them obviously begin to exceed and begin to run a business for themselves, like, that is, I finally understood why the trainers did it. I finally got it, because I was not prepared to get a kick out of it. I was doing it truthfully when I started because I was getting paid and because Johan asked me to. My heart wasn't in it. And then I saw him succeed and was like, actually, this is pretty damn cool.
And that's a different type of feeling as well. Like, you get paid is a great feeling, but then when you have people message you and they're like, oh, I followed exactly what you said and I've just been paid, and you're like, shit. And I've had people that are like, will sign double the size of retainer, and they're like, yeah, this is following what you said, and I'm like, oh crap, I need to up my game if you're the one that you're saying,
Mate,
you
seriously, pushes you on. Like, you
Yeah.
see what your mentees are doing, you're like, damn, he might end up making more money than I do. Like,
Yeah.
we can't be having that. Do you know what I mean?
It's more motivation as well, right?
More motivation. And then there's a sense of, obviously, you feel a bit proud, naturally. Then you've got, obviously, the gratitude side of it. You've got the, I don't even know, just that rewarding sensation. People always say when they go out and do charitable works, they come back feeling rewarded, right? Like, it's the same kind of thing. Like, I didn't expect to get a kick out of it, but it made me feel great, and I was super pleased for Johan when he started making money out of it. And for me, that was kind of it. So I went ahead and mentored people for the rest of the year. But by the time I got through to December, I was working with sort of 15, 16 people, and I was just running out of time. I didn't have enough time in the week to do everything, like with the social media, with the business. Like, I hadn't fully systemized it back into last year. I was still on my way out. Like, I was just running out of time. I didn't have a spare day to myself or even a spare hour. I said, right, we're going to have to stop doing this, but people still want it. And ultimately, I'd quite still like to keep it going and to meet people through it and make great connections. And of course, it pays me. So I was like, okay, let's take the course online. And I thought I could record it in like 2 days. And I sat down with a camera for 2 days and was like, we're about 20% the way through. I've got 16 hours of footage. We're gonna need a few more days booked in, and we finished, I think, with just over 90 videos, or just under 90 videos, of everything I could possibly think of to teach from start to finish about every strategy, the entire thing in one place, and for a hell of a lot less than you'll pay for a course in person. Everything you could possibly need to know, from systemization to selling to branding to marketing, to how to find each of the individual deals, how to stack up your refurb, how to calculate things, how to solve these problems. Like, what do you do with your mindset? What do you do if deals don't sell? How to write your sales email? Literally the entire business broken down step by step, and just chucked in a video with full transparency and all the contracts and all that kind of stuff you could possibly need. Just one place where you can go and learn what you need to learn to get going.
And I think, like, when you teach something as well, it makes you understand it so much better as well. Because if you're just doing it and you're in the business doing all of the things day to day, like, you obviously understand, but you sort of lose track of what you're doing, because it's like any habit, ain't it? Like, once it's a habit, you sort of forget, like, tying your shoelaces. You don't appreciate that one stage in your life you didn't have a clue how to change to tie your shoelaces. And it's probably the same with you. When you're doing it every single day, you don't actually think about what it is that you're doing. So that's great. Jane, I'm gonna push you for the end because I've got another call. But just to finish up, obviously this is the Designer Future podcast. I love getting people on like yourself. You're absolutely killing it. inspiring others to take action, which is amazing. Where is James in a year's time from now? Like, obviously, you've started deal sourcing, you've gone on to these bigger, like, commercial projects now. What are you hoping to sort of achieve, or where are you sort of going to be in a year's time from now?
Great question. So at the moment, we have the big focus is developments, new build sites, so buying land, building houses, finding old buildings, converting them to likely to residential, but it could be amongst the things. We're taking on a deal a month with these, and all of them are making 6 or 7 figure profits on them, so that they're big deals. We're doing the aim is to do one of those every single month. This time next year, we should be beginning to exit some of the ones that we started this year. So that'll be nice. So that will be obviously mean getting paid amongst anything else from a year's worth of work, which is going to be phenomenal. But also getting to see some of these take off and looking to take a bit more capital under management in-house, beginning to systemize some of the development stuff and bringing that in-house. So in-house planning consultants, etc. That's really kind of where I want to be in a year's time.
I just want to touch on, I obviously can't show you this, but I've got my watch on, right? And me and James have been speaking throughout this podcast episode, and this is just to sort of fucking just show the whole concept of social media, right? I just had an email come through. Hey Ollie, I saw your video on making Zoom video podcasts. I was wondering if I could get more information on the editing and prices for your services. Like, so guys, create content. I hate it. Like when people say to me about they can't create content. James is a great example of how you can utilize it in property.
Bear in mind, my heart's not in it. My passion is not
and he's just getting recalled. And I remember someone commented on that video yesterday saying, great video, great information, but your audio within this time period is really crap. It's really bad. Like, imagine if I was like a perfectionist and looked at that and deleted that video because I'm like, oh, that video, yeah, the audio doesn't sound that great in that time. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to do it again. Like, then that person wouldn't have found that video and emailed me, right? So just hit record, guys. And like James said, document over creating. If you're following, even if you haven't sold any deals, if you're going to follow James's strategy, you're going to start doing deal sourcing, right? Hit record from now, from you never doing any deals to you picking up your first deal. Because if you documented that and you've shown your journey of you studying, you researching people like James, maybe taking James's course, document you taking James's course. It's going to get him a lot more cool sales as well, which is going to be great. But also it's going to show that you're invested in what you're doing. You're learning, you're educating yourself on the matter. And then as soon as you hit that first deal, then you've got that proof of concept. Like James said, he's just showing people what he's doing, and then other people are going to naturally feel more comfortable with you and then get invested with you as a person. And ultimately that's all it is, ain't it, James? Like, people buy from people at the end of the day. So you documenting yourself is one of the reasons I reached out to you. It's one of the reasons investors will reach out to you, and it just becomes so much easier when you're creating content. Thank you so much for coming on, man. Anything we didn't speak about that you want to finish up with just before we shoot off?
Not really, man. I think we've covered a lot. I mean, I could talk for weeks. I could read.
Yeah, sure.
But it's been a pleasure, man. And I like podcasts. It allows you to get into a little bit more depth, not as much as you could with the book, but more so in like a 5 or 10 minute video. And I think if you're not a big reader, use podcasts to help you. And there are some phenomenal podcasts out there. Olley does some fantastic ones, and he has asked some great questions. Trust me. But just in general, the podcast kind of section, and then getting around audiobooks and books, you want to get your education moving. There are some very key basic business principles that you're going to want to nail, which aren't really going to be spoken about all that often at courses and events and that kind of stuff. If you want to understand how to be an entrepreneur as a person, there are some fantastic books I'd highly recommend reading. And if you drop me a message on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook, basically a social media platform you want, I'm more than happy to come back to the list of stuff that I'd really highly recommend you reading.
Amazing, man. Amazing. Well, thank you so much once again. Congrats on what you're doing, and I wish you all the best. And yeah, I'd love to get you on a year time from now, and obviously sort of document that journey as well.
I'm down for that, man. I'm down for that.
Amazing, man. Well, thank you so much. Have a good weekend. I'm sure I'll speak to you soon. Thank you for the guys watching and listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care, guys. Peace.
Hollywood 6.